Welcome to the Splash 2024 Black Diamond Advisory YouTube podcast. My name is Cameron Lackbour, and I have as my co-host
Selvin Katukaran.
And we are delighted to have our very special guest,
Mel Lenhardt.
So, Mel, we were just talking before the recording started that Selvin and I used to work for you. And we may or may not have been like the worst hires you ever had, but...
Yeah, definitely. I was lucky enough to have all-stars always working for me, not just the two of you, but many others. So I was lucky in that respect. It wasn't very hard to manage the people I had.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do today at OneStream. So I should note that Mel is a OneStream employee.
Yeah. So there's a long history in the space, in the EPM, CPM space. I started back in 1996 implementing Hyperion Pillar. So I've been, way back when, right? And it's funny, there's still people, there's a person here today that I met, that I saw. I haven't seen him since the early 2000s, who was a Pillar consultant. So it's interesting. But I've come, all this way. I've been with Hyperion, I was with Hyperion for like 7 years, and then I went off on my own for a while. And then I came to OneStream in 2017, so I've been here since. I was in consulting for 5, went to product for 2, and now I'm in a group called Strategic Customer Advisory. And what our group does is we fill up 3 legs of the stool: the customer, the partner, and OneStream. And so what we go in to do is help our strategic customers, our very large customers, find more things to do with OneStream. So for instance, just finding more use cases. What happens is a lot of these big companies, they do their first project and then they kind of stop. Well, there's a lot more advantages. Like Craig says, the more you do, the more you can do. So that's sort of the way I see it. The more you do, the more you can do. So currently I'm working with one of my customers is in New York, a financial services customer. So, and it's really it's my first chance at doing it. Other people in our group have done a few more of these than I have, but it's been a great experience so far.
That's an interesting...
So you're involved in the transformational aspect of it as well?
It's mostly advisory, yeah, on my side. So we have 2 lanes, so to speak. We have a functional lane, and that's where I am. Then we have a technical lane. And so we have some of our more technical distinguished architects involved there. So it's like the old IBM commercial. I tell them what to do, but I don't know how to do it. So that's when I make the phone call to Eric and John. Everyone in this space knows who they are. And John, it's really John and Chol, not Eric. The 3 of those guys, it's like a 3-headed monster. But yeah, it's Eric or John G and Chol are the 2 technical experts, and we're going to add
planning and consolidation.
Well, you can think of it that way, but that's not really how it's laid out. It's more just regional and who's available.
Gotcha. So I do have a question for you about the aspect of that. It's kind of like what Craig was saying, the power of the platform.
Right.
So that's an interesting. How do you find those use cases? And typically the customers buy it for either consolidation or planning. Right. Now, once that is done, it's done. Like you said, it's just people do that project and it's done. So how do you find the other use cases?
Yeah, you have to get outside of the project team, right? You have to get inside other parts of the organization. We sell to the CFO, but we don't see the CFO during a project, right? So we have to get outside of our project champion space. And we get a lot of help from sales because they have those upper level connections.
Okay.
So they help us get involved. It's not just me though. It's the partner, it's the customer that's there. We work with them. Hey, how can we, because they're advocates. When people, they love OneStream. They want OneStream to be successful in their company. They want it to do more. So it's, we'll discover how it goes over time. But I think it's a pretty easy sell. Like you can see what's happening here at Splash. Everyone's excited about our software. Everyone loves it. It's a community. It's like we have the customer working for us.
So you do end up talking to the CFO and the...
I haven't,
No.
especially at my strategic. That's the other thing. It's like CFO. What does that mean? You know, when you get to these big companies, the CFO is as big as the president. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, you're a level down, probably, or 2 levels down even. But those levels have a lot of spending power and a lot of decision making power.
So you've been in this space since 96 or before?
Since 96.
Since 96. I started
Unless you
consulting.
count Lotus 1, 2, 3.
There is, now you're dating yourself now.
I know.
So I started consulting in 96 as well. How have the projects, well, I understand you're no longer a consultant, but you were until relatively recently, right? How have the projects changed? Technologies have changed, but that's a constant, right? That's the technological world we live in. What about the projects themselves?
So for me, like, you know, these kids today, no, it's the expectations are different, right? I mean, you open up your phone and you download an app and you know how to use it immediately. You don't have to go through an instruction manual. You don't have to read it, anything. You can just know how to use it. I think that's the expectation of software today. People expect that the software works as soon as they open it. Well, you have to, you know, as we know, you have to put in the logic to run your business, you know, in your business's special ways. So it's hard, and people understood that 15 or 20 years ago very well. So you go into a company, do a project, everyone is rolling up their sleeves, trying to learn, trying to figure it out, bringing the information to you, just trying to learn as much as possible. Now, today, it seems like they want you to do it for them. They don't want to roll up their sleeves as much. I mean, it's a generalization, but it's pretty fitting.
You're talking about the implementers of the tools, right? Or are you talking about the customer? The customers. Okay.
Yeah, they expect things to already be there.
I've heard that one because they're like, we bought OneStream, but there is nothing coming with it.
Right.
It's like you have to do it again. So is that where the CPM Express comes in?
That is where CPM Express comes in. Yeah, and you know, it's the idea of giving, and again, it's a setup for, I think, customers that really want that ease, that ability to easily jump into having a started up product, where, you know, when you get into more complex situations and asks, it might not be the right product. But if you want somebody who just wants to take what's out of the box and run with it and have something very quickly, that's the answer.
Okay.
And I don't know how many projects you guys were on when, you know, you're 3 months in there, like, why don't we have input forms yet? And we're still working on metadata and data, you know? They want something now. They want it fast.
Let me ask you a question about the implementers. So you and I are Gen Xers. Sullivan is a millennial kid, right? But now we're dealing with the generation behind them or ahead of them or whatever the right term is. What's your take on working with people that age? So for those of you who are watching this, who are like 24 years old and you think that these are a bunch of old farts who are talking about the youth of today, we are somewhat different in our work perspectives and approaches. What have you seen?
Well, I got to tell you, my experience with the staff at OneStream, they're wonderful. I mean, like, they break the mold. Like, what you hear and what you expect, they're different. They're like we were, right? They're jumping in, digging in head first.
I met a couple of them yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, just look what's happened with, you know, AISML.
Yeah.
I mean, in just the people, the young staff that we have, they're all, you know, gung ho. So in that respect, it's a little different. I think we have to respect their time more. I think back in the day, we were leaving on Sunday nights and getting back on Friday nights.
Sometimes, yeah.
You know, they value their time more than we did. I don't know if they do, or they're just less afraid of their leadership than we were.
Tell them no.
Yeah.
Tell them no. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, so that's what I see. They're, you know, they know a lot more. I mean, when they come out of school, the things that they've experienced, I mean, they experience coding before they even go to high school. A lot of these kids,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
They're playing these games, and you know, they can figure out things quicker. They're, it's more intuitive. So, and then when you talk to people, up at our age, we start getting to the point where it is confusing. There's such a broad amount of knowledge that's required to like get involved in these products. What used to be single standalone products, they had their own consultants. Yes. Now require one consultant to understand all of them,
or at least a lot of them.
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's difficult.
That's an interesting point. Like, there was someone who asked, like, OneStream does say that it is a one platform, but isn't it still like you have to understand consolidation, but a planning consultant is still not going to do a consolidation project? Is that how you guys look at it? Or
I think there's thoughts around it, and there's passionate thoughts around it. Mm-hmm. I'd be more around the lines of specializing.
Yep.
And it's, let's just say, I don't want to learn about consolidations.
I don't.
Right. So, and it's funny. I'm a CPA. I should understand like the back of my hand. At the same time, the people we have, we pretty much require they know both.
Really?
Yeah.
So that has changed.
Yeah,
because that wasn't a requirement for us.
No, it wasn't. I think they just tolerated us.
Yeah. Possible too.
I think the younger staff, they have to.
They have to know both.
Yeah, there's certain promotions that require that you've done, projects, whether there's consolidations or planning, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So, and the thing is it makes a lot of sense, because just because you're doing a planning project doesn't mean you can't take advantage of some of the consolidations features to help you.
Of course.
Yeah, that's always there.
And vice versa, like you got to think out of the box. And if you have that whole tool set that you can think through, and maybe just do something a little differently, I know like someone's used, for transfer pricing, they used the intercompany functionality, even though it's not intercompany, managing people planning, for instance, hires. Who did I hire versus who did I say I was going to hire? You can use
reconciliation between the two.
Account reconciliations, right, or transaction matching. Yep. So those are ideas that are kind of out of the box if you're thinking of it holistically across OneStream instead of
thinking it in silos. Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So you have children, right? You have a couple of kids. Well, question one would be, when they listen to what you do, they must hear something of you talking about it at home. Did they ever say, "Dad, that sounds really interesting. I'd like to do that too"?
No. It's so funny. I know two people that are here right now that have been long-term consultants whose children are here with partners.
Isn't that interesting?
It's awesome. And I thought this is the greatest job you could ever have. Like, if you start off in consulting, you earn your MBA on the ground, right?
Mm-hmm. That's true.
You really do. And you see every type of company, you meet every type of person, you learn so much about business. And I really wanted my kids to get involved in this. And my oldest son actually interned here. So,
really?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not realize that.
Yep. And he decided this is not what he would want to do.
Okay.
So,
I've often thought, some people have very specific plans for their careers. I'm going to do this by this age. I'm going to do this for this long. I'll be here in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. I've never had a plan. It just sort of happened. It's such a small world.
mm-hmm.
It amazes me that, I think the same is true for you, Selvin, that we stumbled into it. Part of me wants to not tell people, right? Because if there's too many people in it, then there'll be more competition. It'll be harder to get jobs. This is a very selfish perspective, of course. But at the same time, the need for it is so great. The number of people that do this well is so small. I find it surprising that there isn't a more concerted effort, not by OneStream, not by Black Diamond, the company that we work for, to really get fresh graduates into this field. It does happen. It doesn't appear to be very prevalent. Now, maybe that's the people that we see at conferences, that they're not going to be 23 years old. They don't get to come to conferences. I'm not totally sure about that. It seems to be a missed opportunity to recruit those people, those smart people, into our field.
Right. It is. it might not be the way to do it. If you look back in the Hyperion days, way back in the late 90s, they wouldn't hire kids out of college.
No,
I mean,
Hyperion did not.
Right. There might have been there might have been an exception, but they wanted kids who'd been working in the real world for 4 to 5 years, and then come with that experience. Hey, you sat in the finance office, you know about finance. Now you're going to use this tool. Now you're going to help other people use this tool.
I see.
So the good thing is, a friend of mine, his son came here and he got hired as a consultant, and he had a job offer from a bank, and he had a job offer from OneStream. And he called me and he asked me, he said, what should I do? And he said, well, I'm not going to tell you what you should do. And I said, but here's what we should think about, and I kind of talked to him. And so he called me back a couple days later, and he said, I chose to go with OneStream. And I said, you made the right decision. You are now set for life. It's not about being necessarily at OneStream, but it's the skill set he's going to learn that he's going to set him up. He's going to set himself up for a knowledge that he'll have forever to work with.
Old mine wants to come and do my stuff.
Did it really?
Yeah. I don't know how it will go.
I have to tell you, my son just looks at me like I'm insane whenever I talk about work.
My third one doesn't want to do anything that I do, but the other two, yes.
That's interesting. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So Mel, you were the planning practice lead in services.
Mm-hmm.
You went into product management. So I don't know that our audience knows this. Selvin is the development manager at Black Diamond. I'm the product manager at Black Diamond. Yes, that's what I said too when I got the job. Oh, probably the people that run Black Diamond also said, oh. How would you contrast the two of them, the services side of it and because you're really arguably kind of back in consulting, right?
Right. You're right.
How would you contrast the two roles, product management versus consulting? You certainly use the background from consulting as part of what drives product management, but what about the rest of it?
Yeah. So, there's two pieces to it. There's the marketplace or solution exchange, and then there's the platform piece. The platform piece, it's really hard to control that because, it's central. It's central to everything we do, and it's really controlled at the upper echelons, right? We can ask for things. Yeah, we can ask for things and we can get them in there, but they're prioritized, and they're based on, many factors. And so if you want to move a planning thing quickly, well, it better have precedent over 7 other things, right? And so, that's the one thing you had to balance. On the other side of it, the marketplace side, it's what you're experiencing probably because that's what you guys partner place. Yeah. So, that's where you have getting a lot of opportunity there. On the planning side, what I find to be difficult is that no matter what subject matter you come up with, you take it to 5 companies, you get 5 different answers, right?
Yep.
You have to have a solution that's loose enough to adjust to each customer, without locking them into certain ways of doing things that they don't want to do, So, in that you kind of have to think from that consulting standpoint, like what's my experience? What would a customer do here? And it's a lot of times, like I was working a lot with people planning, is trying to keep it loose enough so that anybody can take it over and run with it, but at the same time, give them enough so it's easy to implement.
It's interesting. It's refreshing to see a lot of innovations happening on the planning side. Earlier, it was consolidation because it was
The Genesis as a tool.
Yeah.
So I know we talked about all those features and stuff like that. Did the strategy change? Because earlier, like I said, it was built as a consolidation one. Now we see a ton of innovation coming even from the platform side on the planning. Is that vision still there?
I think the vision is the whole entire, ecosystem all the way across from consolidations through AI. It's just a matter of getting there, right? There's so much to do, and there's just a certain amount of people that can do it, right? So I think that's where it is. I don't think it's really necessarily a change in thought or anything like that. I think it's just, we're getting it done as we can get it done.
Okay.
Well, we're almost out of time. I have one last question for you. If you had a crystal ball, where would you say OneStream will be in 3 years? What is your vision of what OneStream will be then?
I think we're going to be in 3 years. We're going to be talking. These conferences will be more AISML and just in smaller CPM. I think CPM is going to always be important, but I think AI and SML are going to advance so quickly that, I think they're going to leave CPM behind. They're going to make it a smaller play in the company.
Interesting. That's a fundamental change of the purpose of OneStream.
And
interesting.
I would just call it. I wouldn't even say that's a OneStream thing. I think it's it's the way things are going, right? Yeah. You used to have tube TVs, and now you have flat screens. And
that's true.
In 5 years, we're probably going to have paper that's a TV hanging on the wall. It's not going to even be that. So I just think it's evolution is what it is.
Interesting.
But I mean, it's 3 years is a short amount of time.
I know, but it's a long amount of time in the tech world. So
it is.
Hence
and it's moving. It's moving fast. I mean, the team that's involved there, look what they've done so quickly already. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, well, thank you, Mel, so much. Thank you for being our guest. It was a real pleasure.
Yeah, it was great.
Thank you, Mel.
Thank you, Mel.